Alright guys, one last video to close off this weird year, but with an important message nonetheless. I know many of us had so many aspirations, so many things we wanted to achieve in 2020. And then a virus threw a spanner in the works. For me, that meant canceling a trip of a lifetime, traveling from Brazil all the way to Alaska and meeting so many cultures, having so many ideas for small documentaries. I even wanted to cover the elections over in the US, but when I was in Peru back in February, March, I called it off. I went back to Brazil to isolate with my girlfriend, and a few months later I came back to Europe, definitely putting an end to this idea of traveling in 2020. But while it was sad for me, it's nothing compared to countless people who have suffered immensely throughout the year. Losing loved ones from this virus, losing their job, being under severe threat from people who were sworn to protect them. So putting things into perspective, it wasn't so bad for me. Yet, despite spending most of this year isolated between four walls trying to prevent the spread of that virus, you'd think that there's not much to do. It's quite the opposite actually. Never, over the last few decades, well, as far as I remember, I'm from '87 after all, had I spent so much time by myself. My girlfriend was there, of course, but what I mean by that is that I had so much time in my hands to reflect upon so many things. And this time allowed me to reflect very, very carefully about what 2020 has taught me. And there's one very important lesson that I learned. And that lesson is very, very simple. 2 words actually. Be better. Throughout this year, I realized that so many things were out of my control, but there was one thing that I could focus on that would help me go from one day to the next to the next. And not just help me, help the people around me. And it was simply to try and be a better person today than I was yesterday, tomorrow than I am today. Something quite simple after all. Ain't that right? I sincerely hope that 2021 has better things for us. I hope that we can reflect on such a strange and tragic year and think of ways that we can be better for ourselves and to others. Of course, there were days that were harder than others. And it happens that instead of a step forward, you make a step backwards or 2. But the idea, the grain that needs to be in that head is that we have to thrive to be better. Not only for ourselves, but for others. Whether it's a gentle word towards someone you love or a complete stranger. Whether it's preparing a meal for someone who doesn't have the time to. Or being open-minded to ideas you haven't heard before. Of course, I'm saying all of this, but ultimately, don't sacrifice who you are to be someone you don't want to be. You have to want to be a better version of yourself. You have to define what a better version of yourself is, and then just be better. Because ultimately, that's most of what we can control day after day. We can control the virus. We can control its impact on economies and populations, but we can control ourselves, and we can be better people than we were yesterday. And we can be better people in 2021 than we were in 2020. So, if I had one message for 2021, it's quite simply that one. Be better.